Today we're going to be talking about Champion irrigation. And, everyone knows Champion from those flush mount or pop-up little brass lawn sprays that they made for decades and decades and that you can still get your hands on. I'm sure anybody who collects sprinklers has probably a few too many of those in their collection. But more specifically, we're going to be highlighting a very early adjustable part circle half-inch impact that they sold. And it has a lot of interesting features to it, and we'll get into that in a bit. But first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the founding of Champion. And so Champion was founded in 1937 by two brothers, Ralph and Tony. And I'm going to pronounce their last name Pejsa. It's spelled P-E-J-S-A. And their family had been involved in manufacturing bells, brass bells, for many, many years. And through some association with Western Brass Works, Tony got a job with Walter Storm and began managing part of his operation there, and eventually went out on his own. But even as his own company, starting in 1937, Walter allowed him to use the Western Brass facilities to manufacture his sprinklers, and they remained very close. As late as the 1940s, they were taking these incredible trips to Africa to go on safari, and that's a big enough deal today in our modern age where the globe has shrank pretty significantly. But that must have been quite a trek, 80 years ago when they did that. So the families were incredibly close, I believe, even though you could technically say that they were in competition. Now, Champion remained a customer of Western Brass for decades. So any kind of a Champion impact sprinkler you see, brass one anyway, is going to have that really distinctive back end of the lever that Western Brass is famous for, and they sold those right up until very recently. And Champion, as a whole, had a complete line of residential and lawn and garden equipment. I don't know that they ever added anything for large turf, golf, or athletic turf. And I also don't know how deeply they ever penetrated the agricultural market. They're a California company. They did sell some of the bigger Western Brass impacts for a time. So certainly they could have been used in agricultural markets. But mostly, I think they were famous for just those little lawn sprays. And, it's funny, one of the first pictures of an old sprinkler I ever took was when I was on business in Los Angeles, staying at the Intercontinental right next to Fox Studios. And right in the parking there was a Champion spray head. And for years after leaving the irrigation industry, in any kind of new town or something, I'd be walking through the grass areas with my head down, looking for old sprinklers. So I was delighted when I saw that. Now, obviously, these are very common. They're everywhere, and I think that speaks to the success of Champion. I don't know a ton of companies of that size that survived pretty much uninterrupted for probably 87 years now, and have continued to sell a very similar product. They were known for those sprays, maybe an angle valve, an anti-siphon valve perhaps. They sold automatic valves and controllers too, and conversion kits to turn your manual angle valve / anti-siphon valve into something automatic, and then virtually resold every style of small pop-up impact sprinkler, small gear-driven sprinkler. I've got a number of videos in kind of my random video sprinkler series that shows a number of those different things too. So sold a lot of different things, but what they were known for is brass. And today they're owned by Arrowhead Brass, I believe is the name, or maybe it's Aero Brass. I'll correct that while I'm editing. And they've been a combined company since I think 2006. And so you can still go in, you can still order your brass pop-up spray that says Champion on it if you want. And I'm sure there's a lot of hardware stores and garden centers that still have them available. But let's now turn to the sprinkler we're going to show in operation. And so this guy, just because of the relationship that the Pace has had with Walter Storm, I am quite certain that this was made by Western Brass. I've also seen some other sort of private labeled sprinklers of this era that have this same lever on them, and it seems kind of cut off, but it is more of a rectangular than sort of an oval. And it says Champ on one side and Los Angeles on the other. And I'll obviously lay better pictures of this over top of this video. Some of the things that I think are really interesting and help date it to, I'm going to say, the 50s, maybe into the early 60s, are the solid brass pin in the trip mechanism, the chunky bronze trip on the back of it. A lot in later years, you'd see those made out of stainless steel. In later years, this solid pin would be sort of almost looks like a, I don't know, half a paper clip that can flip up out of the way. And then for me, the coolest things, the arc stops themselves are this brass ribbon, and it has a loop on each end of each brass ribbon. It's like almost a hook, the way it attaches to the bearing, and it's aesthetically very pleasing. It's really a cool way to do that. And later these were all stainless steel, and then other materials, and even other designs later. And then down on the bearing, this certainly predates zip codes, and zip codes I think are dated to 62, 63, something like that. The bearing is a Rain Troll bearing and has the Rain Troll logo on it. And it says Western Brass Works, Los Angeles 12. So that's the postal area of Los Angeles, California, USA. And they stopped using that 12 with the advent of the zip codes. So we can zero in a little better on the age of this guy by that little fact alone, and say pretty certainly that this is most likely a 1950s sprinkler. Some of the other things, Rain Troll in particular, that side of Western Brass, in the 60s they used plastic nozzles. This guy has a brass, and maybe somebody could have changed it out, but just looking at it, I don't think so. And I can still read it. It says 3/16 on there, but I'll show you better pictures of it. And yeah, that's essentially the way in which I look at this sprinkler and take at least an educated guess at its age. It runs well for something that's probably between 65 and 70 years old, and looks beautiful. My buddy Frank actually cleaned this one up before he sent it to me. I need to get down into the workshop again and start working on some sprinklers. It has a diffuser pin. I'm not 100% sure that that's the screw that would have shipped with this guy, but it's better to have one than not. I am 100% sure though that this is the diffuser pin arm that would have come with it. It's solid brass, has a brass screw through it, and it's indicative of what Western Brass was putting on sprinklers at the time that just had that diffuser pin option. So that's pretty much what I have to say about this guy. In terms of the channel, please like this video if you enjoy it, and that'll help YouTube decide to show it to more people so more folks can enjoy it. And subscribe to the channel. I've also, in the last handful of weeks, been adding more and more videos to my playlist of content from other sprinkler people who make stuff that I enjoy. So check that out. There's some pretty unique sprinklers represented there, and they're done in ways certainly better than I can do it. So just want to kind of share the hobby and spread it around that way. So please go take a look at that playlist if you get a minute. And hopefully you'll enjoy seeing this guy run. And thanks again for watching.